Airplanes are a thing that's supposed to be in the sky. But what I did was I put a big magnet in DC. A large magnet was going to save us a lot of money. The planes go very fast. We're going to slow them down. I put a very big magnet. It's a beautiful magnet. I put it right underneath Reagan Airport. It worked very well. It brought the plane right to it. But, you know, the liberals, they had it on the wrong direction and it went into water. So we're already living through Project 2025 that's the whole spiel. There was a massive series of incidents over the weekend, plane crashes, a helicopter's been destroyed, 6 people dead. I can't remember. I have the things up here. A whole commuter jet went down, probably massive to total loss of life, and a, medical bus, I think we'll see in these stories, also crashed in Philadelphia, I believe. Like I said, we're going to go over the story, so all of those will be corrected like momentarily. This is all connected to a continuing handoffishness and mistreatment of air traffic controllers and the FAA as a agency that controls a very, very important subsection of society, which is aviation, right? America runs on planes. Planes come in and out of our country all the time. They're crucial for trade. They're crucial for transportation. The FAA is not well funded. Part of Project 2025 is basically to deregulate everything and also defund everything and basically fire as much of the federal government as humanly possible to keep it operational. And some of that went into effect last week. We'll have dates and shit in some of these stories that are here. I'm going to be looking to the Associated Press for them. The links are in the episode description so that you can double check, as well as the link to the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board. The main crux of this story is two-part. First, you need federal services to make the world work. Private sector is good for some things, and it is better in almost every way for some things, and it is completely ineffectual for some things. And the same can be said for federal services. There are things that you should absolutely be only relying on the government for, and there are things that you can't rely on the government for at all. And it is on a completely case by case by case by case basis. So large, grandiose, sweeping statements that are very often made in politics about the value of this or that dollar spent, when the current conversation is about being mad at one thing, but that, argument actually extends to all of the things, constantly results in legislation where federal departments and federal need for serving the people at the federal level is overlooked, devalued, or sometimes just completely goes out of existence at all. And we have massive knock-on effects that last forever. The current problems with the FAA, actually, I think, go back all the way to Reagan. So anybody that's been alive long enough would probably find it actually hilarious that as funny as you can, that one of the biggest plane crashes of this new millennium, outside of the ones that hit those towers that one time, happened in front of Reagan International Airport. That was part of I'm going to double check myself on this in a second, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. Reagan and them basically passing legislation say air traffic controllers cannot strike, which was one of the first massive hits to national transportation workers' rights, and one of the worst ones ongoing. Like, you don't have the right to strike. And here's the thing. When you don't have the right to strike, you just quit. Because a strike is like, I'm not going to work, or we're going to slow down work, whatever, various different ways to approach it. But you go get your job back. The legality and stuff of it is, I'm going to refuse to work until you fix my shit, blah, blah, blah. I can't be sued for this. I can't be taken to court for problems that happen, because I'm not striking raw as an individual trying to do harm to something. It's us as a group trying to get better rights. That is an issue that's still going on. We've had major transportation accidents basically like fucking every year or every other year for the past decade or so that are all completely avoidable. And mostly they are user error in the guise of user error, but they're really like okay, so we're understaffed, overemployed, or not overemployed. I guess it would be overemployed, but in a different way. Overworked, understaffed, hours are too long, benefits are too low. You're not going to get your best people, because anyone that has to choose between a shit job and a better job, if they have the qualifications for both, is generally going to choose the better job. People don't take pay cuts very often for stuff in general, because they have lives to live. And so the overall quality of workers and the overall availability of quality specialized workers for certain fields has dwindled, as people that are in those fields tell their children and people around them, do not get a job. I worked my ass off in school to get this job, and now it doesn't pay what it used to. And it's not worth the time, and you won't have any rights. You can't use the bathroom. It's a bad thing. It started all the way back before I was born, I'm pretty sure, and is ongoing to this day. We had the massive train derailments just a couple years back that killed a bunch of people. Sean O'Brien from the Teamsters Union was like, wow, man, maybe y'all should fucking be better at letting us unionize and transport shit, because your mistreatment of workers and your deregulation of the federal railways of the United States Railways is causing fatal accidents. And when we were looking at Project 2025 stuff before we lost this election, we saw that more deregulation is coming to transportation in general. A bunch of the safety features that people were asking for that stopped the train crashes 2 years ago or 3 years ago now that they wanted then, those are being removed instead of purchased. The FAA, who needs thousands more people to actually operate all these air traffic control towers without, skill gaps, without a risk of, loss of oversight, because you want as much redundancy and safety as possible without being too crazy. Redundant safety is never redundant, as you may have heard here and there if you've ever worked a real job. One of the ones where you have to have something on your body to protect you from the natural dangers of the job. This all culminated, and by culminated, I mean it just happened. The thing that everybody knew was going to happen happened last weekend with 2 crashes in a nearby area almost immediately. They're still looking into it. Maybe it's not going to be what we all think it is, but who the fuck knows? I'm going to go over some of the basic facts real quick, but this is pretty much what things are going to look like as we get deeper and deeper into deregulation if we don't cut it out, and if the most obvious thing that happens when stuff is deregulated, if we don't find out that that was actually like not an almost law of nature, that the regulations keep things regulated and working properly, you're going to see some wild shit. But now we hear salvage crews remove large portion of commercial jet from river after deadly air collision near DC. This is just, we're looking back at it now. The NTSB report is going to take a little while to come out. We actually have the NTSB over here. I'm going to talk about this real quick because then I can just bring this down. This is the National Transportation Safety Board, ntsb.gov. That easy to find. If you want to know if there's been a bunch of other plane crashes, because I was like, wasn't there like 5 this weekend? I don't think it was actually as that high. So you can go to the NTSB. They have reported crashes of planes that come in and out, right? And accidents, event date, blah, 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 blah. And then it'll show you right here. So this is for February. We already had 1 accident, no injuries, aircraft details. It was this tail number, a Cessna 182F. Most of the crashes happen to say Cessna for some reason. I don't know why that would be. January, obviously, was last week. So you can see all of these. The event date. Click. There we go. We had some foreign planes out. Baruta, Venezuela, incident, accident. And we go down here, Charlottesville, Virginia, accident, fatal, accident, Charlottesville, all of this stuff on 125. And you can go ahead and double check these. You can look at these reports. These are the foreign reports done by foreign agencies, right? And look into these things. Usually if there's no big issue or something, you might not see necessarily it, but I think they actually do have to do a report on everything. I don't know how I don't know how the NTSB operates. I never really had to talk to them too much. I know what they do, obviously, because it's a fucking, it's a board. But they do the investigations, and this is where you can double check stuff to see what the fuck is going on, okay? Incidents, accidents, fatals, and everything that's kind of coming up, what the planes were, all that shit. So if you ever want to double check any of this shit, or if you're like really interested, like, I wonder if there's any way to find out how many fucking plane crashes there were in America during a certain year. Okay, well, there you go. This is data for you. All the data. Accident synopses by month, summaries from the NTSB Aviation Accident Database are updated daily on the web and available here sorted by accident date. So there you go. All right, we're going to go to this one. Salvage crews have removed a large, by the way, sorry, this is the article I said before by David R. Martin, Michael R. Sisick, and Claudia Lauer, updated today, this afternoon, actually, literally while we were live. Salvage crews have removed a large portion of a commercial jet from the Potomac River near Washington's Reagan National Airport on Monday, 5 days after a mid-air collision last week that killed 67 people. Wow. Authorities have said the operation to remove the plane will take several days, and they will then work to remove the military helicopter involved in the crash. The most deadly U.S. air disaster since 2001. The last time Federals were slipping was the last time we had one of these. Authorities have recovered and identified 55 of the 67 people killed in the crash, and Washington, D.C. Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly said they are confident all will be found. Crews earlier Monday could be seen aboard a vessel with a crane. There's a full fatality incident because of the mid-air collision. It just destroyed the plane. The plane went down. Boom. Instant. Nothing done. Divers and salvage workers are adhering to strict protocols and will stop moving debris if a body is found. The dignified recovery of remains takes precedence over all else. So just so you know why things are taking a while. The portions of the two aircraft that collided over the river Wednesday night near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, an American Airlines jet with 64 people aboard, and an Army Black Hawk helicopter with 3 aboard are being loaded onto flatbed trucks and will be taken to a hangar for investigation. The crash occurred when the jet, en route from Wichita, Kansas, was about to land. The Black Hawk was on a training mission. There were no survivors. The plane's passengers included figure skaters returning from the 2025 U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita and a group of hunters returning from a guided trip. I'm not going to read too much about this rest of the stuff. I'm going to go down. Deadliest in the U.S. since November 12th, 2001, when a jet slammed into a New York City neighborhood just after takeoff, killing all 260 people on board and 5 on the ground. I forgot about this completely. I guess we're not counting the other one that happened a couple months before that. Experts stress that plane travel is overwhelmingly safe, but the crowded airspace around Reagan Airport can challenge even experienced pilots. NTSB said Saturday the preliminary data showed conflicting readings about the altitudes of the airliner and the helicopter. Investigators also said that about a second before impact, the jet's flight recorder showed a change in its pitch, but they did not say whether that change in angle meant the pilots were trying to perform an evasive maneuver to avoid the crash. Data from the jet's flight recorder showed its altitude as 325 feet, 999 meters, plus or minus 25 feet, 7.6 meters, when the crash happened, NTSB officials told reporters. Data in the control tower, though, showed the Black Hawk at 200 feet, 61 meters, the maximum allowed for helicopters in the area. So, the data in the control tower, while they're looking at the control tower stuff, said the Black Hawk was at its appropriate flight ceiling, right? Which they have to sit. I was watching a guy that night who was a Black Hawk dude. He ran the battalion that did it. I'm not going to bring the whole thing up. You can look it up if you don't believe me. They fly that all the time. I lived on a military base for 4 years, series of military bases. If you're in a military area or around bases, patrol flights with helicopters are constant. They fly the same route at the same height every fucking day, 4 or 5 times a day. You'll see it happen. There's every day. To the point where some people can set their fucking watches by seeing certain helicopters in the sky during the day because it's just that's when that patrol goes by and you'll always be able to see it because it's in the fucking sky. So at that point, they always go down to a certain level because the airspace is heavily conflicted. The planes come up here and you fly down here so that your vertical and your horizontal, right, spaces don't connect. They don't intersect at the same time and cause a collision. And so that is where the discrepancy is. Either the helicopter's too high or the plane was too low. That's what they're trying to figure out. It's not easy to tell from the ground. All of those instruments and the stuff in the control tower are what measure all of those things together, right? It's very complicated pilot stuff. It's why you have to be really good at this shit. Pilots in America are underpaid. A lot of them get paid as much as like fucking bus drivers and stuff. That's what I remember from back in the day. I don't know if that's changed. I hope it has. But I have friends that went to school for pilot, like literally for commercial aviation. They're like, if you're not flying a UPS plane constantly and you're flying like passenger aviation, it is dog shit pay for how much you have to do it. And of course, you're flying all the fucking time. User error is what is going to make 99% of like accidents happen. It's very rarely equipment failure, because especially in cases of collisions, obviously the equipment was working because both of the things were flying up until that moment. So now they're trying to figure out exactly what happened. It's going to take a while. Controlled airspace around airports is like an upside down wedding cake. Yeah. As Tyler says this, another chopper flies over my house. Hey, it's Jack Saint. At the rate of UK-US relationship collapse, I may be back to full British soon. Base. Avoid it entirely. Come here. You can live in Kentucky. Everyone says that Kentucky is the Australia of America. No, the Everglades are. I'm not even going to fucking take a piss. Did I miss the Shad update? Yes, it was most of the episode, but thanks for popping by. And yeah, I did see. I watched your Squid Game 2 review while I was doing some framing work with building a little wall chunk. It got me through it, barely. I'm gonna send you 12 little smiley face cookies or something. I'm trying. Like, man, let me just put on some light listening while I do some work in my front yard and nail these boards together. And you just hear like, I don't know what this means. Maybe it is all falling apart. Maybe art has no meaning. Maybe our future is just a big, bleak corporate landscape full of things that you thought you could love while they're just taken from you day by day. Like, can you? I was trying to smile. But good video. Thank you. Thank you for making it and putting it where I could find it for just me. Okay. I got to finish this segment though. Data from deadliest U.S. accident in 24 years show conflicting altitude readings. So this is continuing this last deal. Uploaded 10 p.m. Eastern, February 1st, 2025 by Claudia Lauer. Preliminary data from the deadliest U showed conflicted readings about the altitudes of an airliner and Army helicopter when they collided near Reagan National Airport in Washington, killing everyone aboard, both aircraft, investigators said Saturday. This confused me because it says in nearly 25 years, and I said, well, no. How far? What, the 80s? And then I went, no, 2001. 2001, nearly quarter of a century ago. My brain, I literally shut down for a second while I tried to reconcile 25 years with the fact that I know it was November 2001 from the last story. That hurt my whole body. I think this might actually be a repeat. No. Okay. Investigators also said, so this is from the other one. Data from the jet's flight recorder showed its altitude is 325 feet, 99 meters, plus or minus 25 feet, 7.61 meters. When the crash happened Wednesday night, NTSB officials told reporters. Data in the control tower, though, showed the Black Hawk helicopter at 200 feet, 61 meters at the time. So they should not have intersected in flight. So we have bad data somewhere here. And they have to accommodate for that because obviously they were at the same height because of what happened. So like video evidence of those numbers are incorrect, but how? The roughly 100-foot, 30-meter discrepancy has yet to be explained. Investigators hope to reconcile the altitude differences with data from the helicopter's black box, which is taking more time to retrieve because it became waterlogged after it plunged into the Potomac River. They also said they plan to refine the tower data, which can be less than reliable. That's what our main job is, to figure that out, the NTSB member Todd Inman, who grew increasingly agitated with reporters' questions, seeking more information and clarity about the readings during a Saturday evening news conference. Oh my God, dude. They said he was mad. Like, okay, bro, I don't know how to figure that out. He acknowledged that there was dissension within the investigative team about whether to release the information or wait until they had more data. Officials say the helicopter's maximum allowed altitude at the time was 200 feet, 61 meters. No one survived the collision, which occurred as an American Airlines flight from Wichita, Kansas, with 64 people on board preparing to land at Ronald Reagan National Airport just across the Potomac from the Capitol. The Army Black Hawk helicopter, which apparently flew into the jet's path, had 3 soldiers on board. Complex investigation, said Bryce Banning, NTSB investigator in charge. There are a lot of pieces here. Our team is working hard to gather this data. Discuss the last moments. The crew had a verbal reaction, he said, with the data recorder showing the airplane beginning to increase its pitch. Sounds of impact were audible about 1 second later, followed by the end of the recording. That is very sad. Inman expressed frustration, too, that accidents like these occur, noting that the board has made several hundred recommendations to improve aviation that have not been acted upon. And now we are in it is 2025, project is going on. So it's 2025, Project 2025 is in effect. And now these are only, when you cut funding, these are not going to be put in. This is under the spend. Oh, the nasty Democrats, they're spending every little bit of money they have. Now we're not buying that, and we're actually going to cut additional services that are already there and functioning. From tragedy, we draw knowledge to improve the safety for us all. That's what we're doing right now. We're dealing with tragedy, but we need to improve safety, he said. You want to do something about it? Adopt the recommendation of the NTSB. You'll save lives, he said, adding that he has spent hours with victims' families since the crash. I don't want to have to meet with those parents like that again. The families, he said, are struggling. Some want to give us hugs. Some are just mad and angry. Inman said, they are all just hurt. They all want answers, and we want to give them answers. Earlier Saturday, recovery crews and divers searched the river and cleared wreckage. A Coast Guard cutter outfitted with a crane waited nearby as occasional recovery team members slipped into the water amid a group of smaller emergency boats. So they're just on recovery now because the plane's been underwater way too long for people to breathe. It's really fucking destroyed. So now they have to go bit by bit by bit and get the bodies out. Helicopter crew was highly experienced and familiar with congested skies around the city. Military aircraft frequently make such flights to practice routes they would use if key government officials needed to be evacuated during an attack or major catastrophe. Going down, examining the actions of the military pilot and air traffic control, FAA has long struggled with a shortage of controllers. Full NTSB investigations typically take at least a year, though investigators hope to have a preliminary report within 30 days. This is another thing. I think I made this criticism of Mercado Media when I was watching this the first time, where people are like, I don't know why we don't know what happened. You do. We don't spend enough money on reporting. If there's more people to know what's going on and more devices and everything to measure it all, the inevitable investigations that might come from some short failing in the system will be quicker because there'll be more people to work on it and they can be more thorough. But yeah, these reports take a very, very long time because there are so many variables to account for when you factor in things like the speed, size, distance, and lifetime of just the aircraft involved in the issue. You know what I mean? Like every fresh cubic foot of air in the sky is its own situation, and every single individual vehicle, even though it looks the same, pilots will tell you this, I've heard it a million times, it's its own monster. Every different Black Hawk, every different plane, they're all going to be similar looking, but pilots really get in tune with the needs of those machines, and they are like racehorses, very finicky, and they need a lot of maintenance and they need a lot of care. A lot of money needs to go into them to make them defy fucking gravity, which we take for granted, and then go hundreds of miles an hour from place to place without hitting each other. It's a crazy system, and constantly we're trying to take money out of it. Of all things, we're trying to reduce the people who make sure the gigantic 100,000 pounds of metal flying over you at any given time doesn't come down and fucking hit you or fall while you're in it. We're defunding that. The guys that make sure the metal pieces don't hit in the sky and then fall on your brownstone in Philly. I'm going to keep this going. More than 300 responders taking part. 2 Navy salvage barges. So this is the recovery efforts. We don't need to go too far. And in Washington, the FAA heavily restricted helicopter traffic around Reagan National on Friday, hours after President Donald Trump claimed in a social media post that the helicopter had been flying higher than allowed. But a day after he questioned the helicopter pilot's actions and alleged, without offering any evidence, that diversity initiatives have undermined air safety, Trump said the helicopter was flying too high. It's far above the 200-foot limit. That's not really too complicated to understand, is it? Trump wrote in a Truth Social post. Wednesday's crash was the deadliest in the U.S. since November 12, 2001, when a jet slammed into a residential neighborhood in the New York City borough of Queens just after takeoff from Kennedy Airport. Crash killed all 260 people on board and 5 people on the ground. Experts regularly highlight that plane travel is safe as shit. Reagan can be hard to fly in. Okay, we're going to keep going. One more here. This is the second crash that happened this weekend. 7 dead, 19 injured, and high-impact air ambulance crash in Philly. This was really serious, because understand, you know when you see the plane and it's like you can see the fucking wheels and shit coming out of it, and you're like, wow, that seems like it's so close to the ground. Well, if we keep firing air traffic controllers, coming soon to a neighborhood near you, you'll say, wow, that seems actually really too close. Fucking, I can't hammer this home enough. This is something that needs to have money spent on it. There's no reason not to. If you need to make it more efficient, you don't cut the funding. You refurbish how it's spent inside the system. A person in a car, this is Philadelphia AP. Sorry, this is by Mark Levy and Matt Rourke, February 1st. A person in a car was the 7th fatal victim of a fiery crash of an air ambulance onto a busy Philadelphia street, authorities said. As investigators sifted through burning cars, damaged homes, and charred debris for clues to determine why the aircraft plummeted shortly after takeoff. Carrying 6 people from Mexico, including a child who spent months in treatment at a hospital, the Learjet 55 went down just after departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport, creating what witnesses described as a massive fireball, shaking houses and leaving a chaotic street scene. They can't say why it crashed yet, and Adam Thiel, the city's managing director, said it could be days or longer until officials are fully able to count the number of dead and injured across a sprawling impact area in a densely populated residential neighborhood. Plane took off, reached about 1,500 feet of altitude, and then plummeted in a steep descent, crashing less than a minute after takeoff in what NTSB chair Jennifer Hamendi called a high-impact crash that left the plane highly fragmented. 7 dead, 19 injured. A lot of unknowns. The crash scene was at least 4 to 6 blocks, and authorities were working to assess the damage, including going house to house to inspect the buildings. Hamendi said her agency staff was working to collect the debris from the plane, which could take days or weeks, and haul it away to a secure location to begin evaluating it. They're still trying to find the cockpit voice recorder, a helpful piece of evidence. They don't have it yet. It's likely damaged and possibly fragmented because of the impact. Plane hit the ground just after 6 p.m. during a busy Friday evening dinner hour, less than 3 miles from the airport. Boom. Child patient had just finished treatment. All the victims were on the jet from Mexico. Crash comes on heels of devastating DC air traffic. Controller lost contact with Learjet. There we go. The Learjet took off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport, which primarily serves business jets and charter flights. Audio recorded by live ATC, live air traffic control, captured an air traffic controller telling Medevac Med Service 056 to turn right when departing. About 30 seconds later, the controller repeats the request before asking, "You on frequency?" Minutes later, the controller says, we have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going to be closed. Michael Chavone was sitting at his home nearby when he heard a loud bang and the house shook. There's a large explosion, so I thought we were under attack for a second. Doorbell camera captured the video of the plane plunging in a streak of white and exploding as it hit the ground. So, who knows? Who knows what happened? Not us. We're going to find out. Is it just a coincidence? Sure, maybe. I don't know. Possibly. But the problems with the FAA and the FTC are also problems that are the same problems that affect all of the rest of society right now. A constant attempt to strip pay away from workers that makes it less likely that someone is going to take jobs that need skill and, work them as a competent individual, or that you're not going to run out of people that are competent and then just overwork the fuck out of them. You know what I mean? All of those inspections, making sure that planes have the appropriate everything about them in place so that they can fly and they're good to go and nobody's getting bribed or double checked, and that where everybody's being like redundant when they do safety concerns and double checks on all of these things to make sure that all of these pilots are licensed and that we're not letting like incorrect or like unskilled people fly planes. All of those are like jobs, man. And a lot of them are defunded or underfunded and overworked already. And now we're about to lose hundreds of them. If we have, and we're going to get into like increasingly scary fucking stories, if this keeps on going, like there might be there are already serious effects before. Remember when the fucking doors were falling off the aircraft and shit because the private air companies that control all of these goddamn planes and shit were not maintaining them, and there's doors falling off and panels falling off and engines catching fire every goddamn day. It's not just over-reporting because people have fucking cell phones now. The people that do maintenance on these things are like, yeah, we're kind of like barely holding shit together, and everybody's trying to strip costs because the people at the highest parts of society don't make money anymore by providing products and services. They make their money by eliminating access to other aspects, or eliminating access to supply and increasing demand so that they can charge whatever the fuck they want. They just own shit. That's it. They just own things. They don't have to make stuff nice. They just have to like make you scared and hungry enough to accept whatever comes your way and insulate themselves from responsibility. That's the kind of like the point. So without tertiary intervention, they're not gonna. There's nothing you're gonna say to these guys. They're gonna make them do anything other than a fucking like oil company. Like, we're sorry. That's why you rarely see people go like, we need to cut down on the amount of people complaining to CEOs about their mistakes that they make. That's not a very common thing because people do it all the time and it accomplishes fucking nothing. But you know what they do? We need at least 2 less people in the FAA. We need to fire at least 10 more people from the IRS. Because those are the kind of motherfuckers that actually hold all of the companies and the people that run them to some degree of account. We pass laws, and then we have regulatory agencies in the executive branch to carry them the fuck out and develop rules to make sure that the laws can be put into function. But we keep cutting down on that because the things don't work perfectly. Instead of trying to fix them, you just eliminate it completely from fucking existence, and then we don't have it. And so it's all of the problems we had from it malfunctioning plus the additional problems from it not being there. But you have an additional all of the money that you didn't spend on it, I guess, in your pocket while you're burning to death at the fucking, on the fucking tarmac. So congratulations on the win if you get it. We're going to continue. Air traffic controllers were initially offered buyouts and told to consider leaving government. Air traffic control tower of Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport is pictured Friday, January 31st. Hey, we were just gifted 5 Goose subs by Based Chaotic Good. Thank you very much, Based Chaotic Good. We need to lay off our most competent staff because they unionized. Yeah. Again and again and again. This is by Thomas Beaumont, Adriana Gomez, Lacan, and Nicholas Riccardi. Just a day before a deadly mid-air collision at Reagan National Airport outside Washington, D.C., employees at the Federal Aviation Administration were sent an offer to resign with 8 months' pay. The Union for Air Traffic Controllers recommended to its members that they not accept Tuesday's offer because the FAA had not decided which positions would be included in the resignation plan. An official for the Office of Personnel Management, the U.S. government's human resources arm, said Friday that controllers weren't eligible for the resignation plan or subject to the hiring freeze across much of the rest of federal government. The crash Wednesday that killed all 67 people on board an American Airlines jet and an American helicopter and an Army helicopter has renewed focus on the real-world implications of President Donald Trump's push to slash the federal bureaucracy. There's no evidence that the White House effort to downsize government played any role in the collision, with shortages of air traffic controllers long predating Trump taking office. But those who have worked in air safety say that those who try to dramatically shake up the federal workforce need to remember that lives are on the line. When I have my best day at work is when I go to work, find out that they're like, hey, you should resign within 8 months because you can get paid off now or leave. And understand that everyone knows that this is coming. All these workers are like fucked. The problems are there. So it's like, okay, did him doing that specifically make it happen now? Like he did it and the fucking a helicopter shot up in the sky? No. But the mentality behind this shit, the constant penny pinching and the fucking lower taxes every year for the richest amount. No one needs to pay for anything. Understand, the vast majority of fucking aviation in America is corporate. It's not us. It's not people flying in all of those planes that you see all the fucking time. They fly oil in those planes. Oil. Like what? Crude oil? Oil in the belly of the plane. Yes. They fly packages, UPS, FedEx, USPS here and there, and all sorts of other things. DHL, shipping. The skies are mostly like the highways, which is semi-trucks and work trucks, blah, 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 blah. There is passenger aviation, of course, obviously. And it's over fucking crowded anyway because we just need more train transportation, but we're never getting that because we can't even have the air work right. But they're trying to pretend that they're spending too much on it. Understand, they're the ones that benefit the most from the FAA functioning. Every time one of these airports shut down, that's billions of dollars. Who the fuck knows? Stuck on tarmac, both in places that are supposed to go there and there. Where they can't leave, no one can arrive. So that whole chunk of that net gets shut the fuck down. and has to be rerouted or sometimes even just canceled. You know what I mean? They don't give a fuck at all. If you're on the right or the left, they don't give a shit. You know it. Okay, fine. We got to find people that do. Yes. These have to be the complaints. If you don't like this, start complaining about it and know about it. This is not good. This is not good. It has been an issue that has been happening. This is the reason the Teamsters did not give their fucking endorsement to Joe Biden, because this would have still happened if Joe Biden had been elected. Joe Biden wouldn't have done shit to fix it, except for maybe gone like, you know, he'd done summon some demons or some shit. I don't know. I guess it would come. I forgot Kamala Harris ran. Sorry, my bad. Kamala Harris. I don't know. She would have done something. I guess. I suppose. You know, hearts and prayers. This is just a result of years of government. But she, you know, they're like, we don't trust you, because Democrats have been in office since these things have started occurring in the 80s, right? We've only gotten more air traffic every fucking year since the plane was invented, because it's a great way to move a bunch of heavy shit really far, really fast. It's kind of like one of the best things we have going on for commerce. But at the same time, they have not been funding it, right? There was massive blows to people's ability to strike, for people to negotiate their pay, overworked, undertreated. The fact that you're like, wait, how many people were controlling the traffic at the fucking Washington, D.C. airport? And you're like, 1 or 2? Don't you think that's nuts? Don't you remember the old shows where it's like, welcome to the airport of the future. In the far year of 1962, we'll have doubled the staff. And he's like, a buzzing fucking series of people, like all walking around, smoking their cigarettes, reading the newspaper. It's not that shit. It's like one guy, like playing a fucking organ, like the Phantom of the Opera. His lives float past him in the fucking ether space of a fucking CAD program. And like, they want to fire a giant chunk of those guys, and also the people that inspect the planes, and make sure those dudes are doing their jobs and inspecting the fucking aftermath of these. Those are positions we need. You can't fire them without something else being there, or you will cause massive issues. And we're about to see the massive issues happen like crazy. And this is a problem. You can't blame Trump for it necessarily. Obviously, it's probably gonna get worse if what he does happens. It makes it fucking worse. Okay, so I won't blame Trump. I won't say it's 100% him, but I will say it's the mentality of him from the 2016 to 2020 era. Yeah, he could have fixed these problems then, and he didn't. But also, even going further back, it's been an issue through blue and red presidents for forever. And I didn't see any fucking presidents signing executive orders, passing any fucking, fighting for any legislation to be passed to protect the negotiating rights and fucking workers, you know, dignity of fucking air traffic controllers. 2 years ago, they fucking crushed the Teamsters, and the Teamsters didn't fucking forget that. And the whole Teamsters union as a collective said, I don't know, no endorsement. And they were probably fucking right to do so. You know what I mean? Because we are can kicking as a country. We've been can kicking since the 80s. It has been Republicans cut something that's extremely important, and Democrats do not do anything to fix that issue, but say they shouldn't have done it in the first place. Again and again and again and again and again. Like, yeah, we do need to move towards populist movements on the left. We do need to move towards workers' rights, and it needs to be a workers' rights and the health, safety, and dignity of the American individual. That needs to be the conversation that fucking happens. None of this horse shit about, like, I don't know, I feel like if we got one more DI person in there, the DI is going to make the plane crash. Well, I think we need one more DI person. Like, why are we even talking like that? I just want good air traffic controllers. Hire everyone. Everyone. Shotgun it. What the fuck is this? Trying to say that every accident now happens because there's like maybe a black person was hired 2 years ago. Why is that your guys' excuses? It's so fucking weird. It's so like weirdly, insanely, non-secretly racist, and that is not going to fix anything on the right side. So why the fuck are you guys saying that? And then on the left side, all you do is say like, wow, that was racist. You're like, yeah, I know, man. What, like, can we fucking do something else? Please, can we fucking hire people? Can we fund these? Can we fight for workers' protections? Can we try to make sure that there isn't a guy that's running a fucking 16, 17 hour shift watching like hallucinating ghost planes flying around in front of his eyes for decades. God damn. It's all fucking crazy. Large amounts of aviation mechanics are aging out of the profession. The government should pay for A&P school programs. Yes. Tyler, plane safely landing is woke. It is true. It is true. That is, I don't know how the fuck you even argue against that. Damn. Well, you know. The radical left says children should be able to survive every plane crash. When I was a child, we smoked our cigarettes on planes. I owned 2 planes at 8. I was 8 years old. I owned 2 planes. I smoked on both of them as a child. And I lived. We crashed one of them, and I was completely fine. Aaliyah didn't make it. I'm sorry about her and the Big Bopper. We always talk about Aaliyah. You never talk about the Big Bopper. He didn't make it. Do you remember? The day the music died. What the fuck am I talking about? I'm trying to maintain a level of levity, but this is actually terrifying. It concerns me that there are people who don't want to reform or restructure institutions. They want to destroy institutions, said James Hall, who's head of the NTSB under President Bill Clinton, a Democrat. The American people enjoy the safest aviation system in the world. I don't doubt that there should be changes in government, but someone should remember the old adage to look before you leap. On Thursday, as the investigation into the crash was well underway, FAA employees were among the federal workers who received an email telling them to quit and find more useful work. The way to greater American prosperity is encouraging people to move from lower productivity jobs in the public sector to higher productivity jobs in the private sector. Read the memo from OPM. What? Name a job that's more productive than making sure the plane doesn't crash. I don't know. You got to tell me who those fucking emails were sent to. That's a bit of a fucking shotgun. It's just like, I don't know, Gina, the DEI hire, who's like the welfare queen fucking caricature of 2025. Are we really, isn't that just it? Are we back on the welfare queen? That's a real thing. It was a fake story that was written about some lady who was the welfare queen of wherever the fuck, and she was black and fat and had 10 million children who crept around her, and her every day was spent applying for more welfare and trying to have more kids for additional welfare. And now our new welfare queen is, well, we can't say she's a fat black chick because it's after 2000, so she's a woke DEI hire that sits at home in her sweatpants with her 10,000 kids, trying to work from home for the federal government, doing God only knows what. I haven't looked into it. I'll tell you right now, these woke work from home DEI hires, I've worked my entire life for everything I've ever gotten. I know you know. All of you know what I'm talking about. I worked for it all. They're at home in their sweatpants and their little rabbit slippers talking about this and that on their cell phones. They're naked. They are naked in the Zoom calls. I've seen it. There's litter everywhere in their homes. They live like animals. These DEI hires at the FAA, we need to get rid of them and hire big, beautiful AI robots to run the sky. Fucking dumb shit. So, it's bad. It's really, really bad. An official with OPM, which made the resignation offers, said air traffic controllers are exempt from a hiring freeze that Trump announced on taking office on Jan 20, and they are not eligible for a buyout, even though they were sent the offer. The official spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss internal government operations. It was unclear if the air traffic controllers themselves had been notified by OPM whether they are exempt. After the initial offer went out, the NATCA, National Air Traffic Controller Associations, recommended an email to its union members not to submit a request for the resignation until more information was available. So it's everybody but like the specific person that does the job. So just all of the support personnel, do you know what they are? You're like, well, it's not the air traffic controllers. Yeah, but what the fuck do they do? Well, I don't know what they do, so maybe we don't need them. It's crazy. You know what I mean? This is Donald Trump and Elon. Here you go. Let's roll the clock back. It's 1995. You've just picked up the newspaper, and between Doonesbury and the Far Side, right there, is another political comic you don't give a fuck about. And in the comic, it's Donald Trump and Elon Musk looking at each other like this. And there's just this insane, crooked, poorly assembled IKEA piece that looks like a crashed airplane, and it's on fire. And it's just Elon Musk saying, I have no idea what's wrong. Uh, and Donald Trump saying, I think we're missing. No, actually, fuck them both. None of that. It just says Musk on his arm and Trump on Trump's arm, even though you don't. And on the bottom, the caption is just, why do we have these extra pieces? Or where did we get all these extra pieces from? There you go. Political cartoon. You remember those? I don't care if they still exist. Thumbnailers, that's the assignment. Jesus Christ. Even if they're exempt, like, dude, all of the rest of the FAA is around there too. Like, what the fuck? They do all this shit, so we have everything except for the air traffic controllers. Okay. Like, is that like engineers? Is that like maintenance people on the fucking programs that are going? Like our IT specialists? Imagine you have a computer in front of you that controls where the airplanes are, and what you do is use the computer to control seeing the airplanes, right? And then talking to them. So we're not going to get rid of those guys. But we didn't account for is whoever fixes the microphones, whoever fixes the computers, whoever makes sure everything is connected, whoever does the connectivity operations between the signals that talk from the tower to the planes and back and make sure all that is accurate. That guy, whoever's fucking mopping the floors and sweeping shit, whoever's handling payroll, whoever's handling this, that, and the other. Like, we kept the people that would be the most terrifying on staff. But we are going to fire everybody that makes their job easier to the point where it's hell on earth for them to continue doing something that they're already not being paid well enough to do. Okay. NATC President Nick Daniels said officials had not explained to the union the details of how its employees would be affected by the retirement program. It's not clear how this program would affect aviation safety workers represented by our union, he added. However, we are concerned about the potential effects to public safety and the efficiency and capacity of the air traffic control system if FAA were to lose experienced aviation safety personnel during a universally recognized air traffic control staffing shortage. Yeah. Though the new administration insists its cost cutting will exempt public safety workers and keep citizens safe, its rhetoric and approach have been much more sweeping than surgical. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, the technology mogul Trump tapped to lead the effort, has said bureaucracy is killing America and repeatedly called for massive across-the-board reductions in the federal workforce. Trump and his supporters have made personal loyalty to the president a top priority in hiring new workers and keeping existing ones. During the campaign, Musk demanded the resignation of FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker, who clashed with Musk over regulating SpaceX and stepped down the day before Trump took office. That left the FAA leaderless until Trump, at a Thursday press conference after the crash, named an acting head of the agency. So even still, yeah, I don't know if them sending the email did anything, but also for just a little bit, we lost the guy running the thing. God damn it. Oh, man. Trump blamed diversity hiring after the crash, despite no evidence about the qualification of anyone involved in the collision, and alleged that former presidents Joe Biden and Barack Obama lowered standards to meet racial or other quotas. He decried an FAA diversity policy that existed during his first administration. If it had been white, I like a white, the planes, they fly. Mine says Trump on the side. It's a very beautiful plane. It's white. All the planes you see in the sky are white. The towers are white. And the only planes that are black are the scary ones. Stealth bombers, ooh, very scary. They sneak up on you, the black planes do. I like everything to be white in here. Probably, if I had to guess, black people trying to read a map. I don't know how it's possible. My grandfather said that it should be illegal for them to read, and then here they are, looking at letters and knowing what they mean. I don't think we need them. I think we just hired random black people. There's no way they could do it. Racist as fuck, bro. Oh my God. Like 80% of the time, if you said they just DEI, like shotgunning saying that, and it's just a fucking white guy anyway that's flying the plane. The whitest cishet dude, he gets out, he's wearing a literal fucking like Trump for America shirt. Though the Trump admin talks about the need to shed federal workers, the government has been desperate to hire air traffic controllers for nearly a decade. The FAA has struggled to keep up with the rapidly increasing number of commercial flights, even as there has been no fatal air accidents since 2009. Last year, Biden pushed for funding to hire 2,000 more controllers and announced the hiring of 1,800 controllers in September. The FAA report obtained by the AP said that air traffic control staffing at the airport Wednesday was not normal, with one person doing the work normally assigned to two people at the time of collision. A person familiar with the matter noted that the positions are regularly combined when controllers need to step away from the console for breaks during shift changes or when the air traffic is slow. My dude is trying to fucking holding lives in his hands or her hands, their hands, while having to piss. There's only one person there. It's one guy that knows how to do one individual that knows how to do the job. They said, look,
We have great workers at Amazon. I've been talking to Mr. Bezos. He's a great guy. He says he gets a lot of productivity. They piss in bottles right where they are. Pissing in bottles, that's the future. Spoiled Americans, they don't know. They never met someone from the greatest generation. They don't know what they've been through. Pissing in bottles was a great tradition in the 1950s. One of the most famous airmen of all time, he pissed in bottles. He had a whole house full of them. He's Howard Hughes, great man. There's no reason the FAA controllers couldn't be pissing in bottles at the workstation. They have plenty of bottles. We'll get them more bottles for the piss, but they can't be stepping away. I don't want to answer any number 2 questions. He's just got to hold it. He's sitting on a fucking toilet. Strapped in, bro. We're like almost to the point where it's like, can we just pull the fucking cerebellum out of this motherfucker and attach it directly to the goddamn console? You are nothing more than your most basic operations. The FAA report obtained by the AP said the air traffic control staffing at the airport Wednesday was not normal. That person spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss internal procedures. Don Kettle, an emeritus professor of public policy. I want like 4 air traffic controllers. I feel like that's a sufficient amount, right? Maybe 5. So 2 people could go on break. And then if there's, I don't know, like if you've ever seen an airport and there's planes, right? There's like a bunch of them. So like, is there one guy talking to every different plane? Maybe having 2 talking to 2 planes when they're landing would be even better. Maybe having one guy talk to a fucking helicopter and a plane at the same time is like, maybe that's not the best setup. And whatever got us there was a fuck up. What if there had been like 5 people there to talk to like 5 different conversations? Have you ever been on the phone with people before? And then you had to talk to somebody on the other line? But then also like, not only are you on the phone, the person is in a fucking commuter jet with 64 souls on board, like flying at like hundreds of miles an hour over a major like population center. And then the person on the other line is in a helicopter that's near that thing. And you're like, not quite sure exactly where they are. Do you think that's like an easy conversation to have? Like, that's like oh no. Like he does it all the time. It's probably like real simple to have like, hey, air traffic control. Okay, hold on now. I got someone on the other line. You know, you ever had 2 people on the line with you at once? Those weren't the only 2 fucking planes in the air, right? Those weren't the only 2 things flying in Washington, D.C. at the moment. Correct? Probably. So we just have... where were the other planes? Were they just fucking around and stuff? We earned this over decades. Is it Donald Trump's specific fault? No. Is he going to make it worse? Yeah. We're just jumping all the way off. We're ripping the Band-Aid off, and the Band-Aid's on a slit throat. The fact there's so much uncertainty in such a short time period, and the fact that the presidency personally seems to have blamed them, Kettle said, is bound to make it more difficult to hire more controllers. Also true. He warned that there are many critical, demanding, and high-skilled government jobs that are already tough to fill, from food safety inspectors to surgeons at Veterans Administration hospitals, and that may get even tougher now. The fiber of government is woven throughout our lives, Kettle said. If you downgrade the capacity, you downgrade what you get. True. They're stay-at-home surgeons, people. I don't know. I've never been to a VA. I've met a lot of great military people. They said it's not perfect, so who knows what's going on there? Actually, I had a DEI surgeon. My literal neurosurgeon that fixed my back was a black dude. Black excellence. I'm fucking good, baby. I recommend a black surgeon for your spine 10 times out of 10. Dude hooked me to fuck up. Fucking hell yeah, man. Thank God for a tradition of medicine excellence. And the kind of people that don't look like me, because the ones that do were like bleeding motherfuckers and trying to cut their heads open to fix spirit shit. My people are fucking crazy with a knife. That guy just fixed me and I left. Walk now, normal. He's a DI. He fixed his back, he left. Fucking insane. Pilots have reported repeated close calls similar to fatal collision near DC airport. So matter of time. Airline pilots flying into Washington, D.C. have reported nearly a dozen near misses that were scarily similar to this week's midair collision that killed 67 people. The type of close calls that led one aviator to complain that Reagan National Airport was probably the most dangerous in the nation. The AP review of a federal database that catalogs such concerns found scores of reports over the last 2 decades of near misses and warnings about congested skies over the nation's capital, with pilots repeatedly complaining about military helicopters getting too close to passenger jets. Last May, one of those helicopters passed just 300 feet, 91 meters,
below a commercial airliner, triggering a cockpit collision avoidance alert and prompting the jet's pilot to file a report in the Aviation Safety Reporting System, a database maintained by NASA that allows pilots and crew to submit voluntary, anonymous, and confidential safety concerns. I never saw it, the jetliner pilot wrote, adding that he never received a warning about the helicopter from air traffic controllers. Such complaints highlighted the tension that has developed between commercial airline pilots unnerved by the helicopters and the military units that have critical national security duties and must maintain flying skills to execute them. It is not clear if federal authorities are aware of such concerns or took any steps to mitigate the risks. But on Friday, the FAA paused almost all helicopter flights from operating near the airport, with the exceptions for police and emergency response. The president's helicopter transport, Marine One, was also exempt. The pause came after an Army Black Hawk helicopter. We already did this. Investigators are examining why it was flying higher than its allowed limit. Covered that. Week before the crash, at least 2 planes had to abort landings because helicopters got too close. In the days since, some officials have questioned why the military flies so close to the airport. Well, I'll tell you why, because it's a fucking airport. Give me not just because it's a plane, it's because airports are there are like a few different levels of critical value in wartime. Airports tend to be at the absolute highest level next to energy production centers for like for target value. So there is every reason on earth that any airport, especially near any sort of military concern like the president, is going to have constant helicopter patrols in the area, because helicopters are the best way to get boots on ground for QRF, quick reaction force type incidents. And the tight airspace and those flights are probably to get them ready to deal with the situation at hand. The actual airport is operating too dangerously. The helicopters have to do that, because whatever the conditions the airport is always operating under are the conditions that you're going to have to deal with if there's an emergency in the military and you have to do some sort of response. They might not be able to tell you what the response is, but I mean, just think about it. Foreign diplomat on the tarmac, there's an attack. Okay, who goes in there? The people that are trained to fly helicopters near that base have the QRF. They know how to get in there as fast as possible, even if there's any sort of air traffic going on in the moment. That kind of stuff. So also reacting to if there's some sort of like invasion or a terror attack or any sort of thing on an airport that's high criticality, all of the areas that are immediately around it, there's probably some series of things that are high value. If you're practicing to be a pilot, particularly a helicopter pilot, which is basically the hardest kind of pilot to be outside of extremely specialized aviation units. I just know this from being fascinated by this stuff, because helicopters fly because physics are insane and they are the most susceptible to bullshit. They'll just go down. It's called a downdraft, because they're fucking insane that they work at all. All right, helicopters are crazy. They're also the best thing to go up and then down, vertical envelopment, all that sort of shit. So you have to be flying and be able to fly whatever your zone is, because you have to be completely used to it and able in order to do whatever the hell your mission might be. So when they're flying those practice routes to do stuff, they have to fly through the route that is given. If there's not conversation between the Army's just like, all right, well, this is our route. This is how these fucking planes work. We'll talk to them, but like, we have to fly this route. That's our fucking job. And then the ATC is like, okay, well, we'll talk to you guys, but this is how the airport operates. And the airport's just like, we are a private for-profit enterprise, and we need to do whatever the fuck that comes to our mind. And we're definitely not moving this operation somewhere else, or like landing smaller planes, or adjusting the landing area. You know what I mean? Whatever the fuck. Or organizing our flights to avoid the thing. That's where the communication at the federal level needs to constantly be occurring. And if that broke down, it did. But yeah, the military helicopters are probably more than likely that's their training route. Now, if we find out that that's different, they're like, no, that they should have never been doing it. Okay, but I was listening, like I said, to the Bravo company, whatever the hell that is, of that rotor wing unit. They fly that patrol route all the fucking time, like every goddamn day, twice a day, I think it was. He said, and they're like, yeah, it's the scariest fucking route to fly because that shit is so shady. The planes are coming in super fucking low. We're right over the city. We can't go lower. We're flying rotary wing over water is harder because the water is soft and hot and causing humidity, as opposed to the ground, which is hard and hot in its own different way, or whatever the fuck. The heat, water's cold. Sorry. The heat coming off the ground changes, so the pressure of the air changes. So the amount of down force that you get for every rotation changes, and you have to pick up all that stuff. So even just going across a river can be like tricky. Womp womp. Flying across a city is hard because the top of every building is more pressure than all of the spaces between the building, which you don't think of, but then you're over the top of it or flying through it, and there's gusts and shit that you can't see that the helicopters are whatever. They've got to be able to fly it for whatever job that they have, which is a military job. So probably very fucking important to do it. It's the goddamn national capital, you know what I mean? And so all these things have to work together. And there's more oversight is what you need to make it happen correctly. One of the biggest shortcomings is definitely going to be having one guy talk to two fucking vehicles that are flying at highly, highly dangerous levels of closeness. If there's a pilot or anybody that knows how to fly in fucking in chat or watching this after the fact, you can correct me or add something. But basically, like, the actual safe distance for two vehicles in the air is like a mile. like a mile away is how safe it is like that's the safe distance where you can say, I am safe from this aircraft. It's a mile away from me because you move that fucking fast, right? So understand, two fucking vehicles coming within 100 to 200 feet of each other, and they're both traveling hundreds of feet per second, you know? Like, that is dangerous as fuck. It is a dangerous fucking interaction space. I would say probably over conflicted, but like there's two necessities that are there, and there's no one overseeing it to the point where, and with enough authority to say, this has to change. We have to fix this. We have to go. The other plane that didn't even crash because of ATC issues, it might just be an FAA issue. And the FAA inspects planes. They double check stuff to make sure that it fucking works. They make sure people filled out their forms and have their licenses and stuff. They make sure that you can be a pilot at all. So those guys go away. More bad pilots, unlicensed pilots, pilots licensed through third-party companies approved by Elon Musk, self-flying helicopters, which is all going to work real well, you know? Aircraft cover miles very quickly. Yeah, that's why you fly them. It's very quick. I've not yet heard a good reason why military helicopters are doing training exercises in the same airspace as commercial airliners at night and with peak congestion. Pretty much because it's the most dangerous situation. Literally, probably why. Oh, it's Josh Hawley saying it. Okay, he's a fucking idiot. I hope these exercises in Reagan airspace will be suspended indefinitely until the investigation is complete. I'm glad that ended with Josh Hawley, not somebody that has like a respectable understanding of how fucking things work. More than half a dozen military, federal, and local agencies operate helicopters in the airspace near Ronald Reagan at Washington National Airport. And they need those same air routes to train for and execute their missions, current and former Army pilots said. Okay, I could have just scrolled down. The Black Hawk lost in the collision was part of Fort Belvers, Virginia's 12th Aviation Battalion, which has had some classified, very important missions related to our nation's worst day, said Brad Bowman, a Black Hawk pilot who served in 12th Aviation Battalion for 2 years, referring to 9/11. You want to have training be as realistic as possible. I did not pre-read this, and that means trying to replicate what you're actually going to be doing when you conduct your mission. I didn't like, it's just basic military shit. I'll tell you why they were doing it, because that's the worst time to be doing it, which is the time that they're going to be doing it when they have to do it. It's going to be raining, it's going to be snowing, it's going to be ice, it'll be the worst possible conditions, darkest, broken, bullshit, no batteries, no backup, and you have to try to be able to fly that when it really, really counts. The fact that the fucking practice runs are so fucking dangerous that they're causing fatalities is an indication that that area is beyond dangerous. Beyond dangerous. Because imagine if no one flew that route, they won't know until you have to fly it during an emergency. They already know to try to decongest that overly crowded airspace because it's fucking Washington, D.C. Understand, those planes and those helicopters are where they are because there's nowhere else probably to be, or they have to be there because that's what they do. So like that plane has to come in that direction at that height because here are other helicopters, personal planes, private jets, diplomatic transport, this fucking that and the other, spy planes, whatever the fuck is some drones and shit flying around the Capitol building to double check for, I don't know, additional Luigi Mangionis that are on the loose. All of that stuff conflicts airspace so bad that your potential vectors for approach and like departure of an area could be limited. Even though you see the whole sky, the actual place you can go is a fucking 17-degree cone going over your left shoulder, and you can't deviate from that for something like 75 fucking miles or something stupid. And it feel like that seems far. Like, yeah, that's how long it takes to land. You remember they say like, we're getting ready to land. And then you're like, okay, cool. And then you're like, damn, I was like 45 minutes. Yeah, because they landed for fucking miles. That whole landing is a picked vector. They do that. Like, all of this is because they, in their little programs and stuff, can see red, 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 yellow, red, red, yellow, red, red. And if you're going into Washington, it's a gigantic fucking like cat's cradle of death that you have to and get down there. Because we over conflicted the airspace because it's such a valuable area to get to, and we don't have any fucking public transportation to land people outside and then travel really well-made, fast-moving land routes that are safer and easier to deconflict. And you have to have so many international people going in there. So you've just overly conflicted the airspace in all of DC. It's stupid. And of course something like this is going to happen. It's going to get fucking worse, man. Reagan isn't even the main airport for DC. That's Washington Dulles. Reagan is the executive airport. Okay, so there's even a bigger one too. God damn. 60 plus people died for practice. I mean, yeah, pretty much. And they're going to fly that mission again. Understand that. That mission's probably not going to go away. It probably can't. It might be like, that's the thing. 60 people didn't die for the practice. They died during a practice run that had to go. They died because the fucking the airspace is over conflicted and nobody's working on deconflicting it because that's not the immediate priority of Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, who apparently are the two most important people on Earth. They want to save money on taxes. If we wanted to deconflict airspace and make air travel more safe, we would do that. People would talk about it online. This has been a problem for decades, but nobody brings it up until everyone's dead. So like now when you're down the line, you're like, damn, if only fucking highly classified, top secret military mission running Black Hawk that has to constantly patrol a certain route around one of the most important, if not the most important and controlled airspace in America. Wow, if they hadn't been practicing to run that, nothing would have happened. Like, that's not the fucking solution. That's not the solution at all, man. Like, unironically, if that's a practice run that went bad, that's still not for the money. Understand that, yeah. That it was in a practice run, it's still not for the money. So whatever they practice for over there in that fucking helicopter is actually fucking crazier. So the real thing would have been that incident if it happened, plus the lack of resolution for whatever it is those guys are supposed to fucking do when the shit pops off. Whatever that might be. So, like, understand, we don't even know what their mission is, but they're practicing for it and it's there. It's there. It's not like they weren't running like general aviation flights. Those are the best guys. Those are the ones that are practicing for running whatever the fuck top secret Yankee white bullshit ass classification mission is going on. They're going to have to still fly it. That airspace is probably not going to get deconflicted. Or if it does, they're going to do it at risk to whatever that mission was. Maybe we find out that you don't need to run it, and that would be horribly depressing to find out. But I've heard people talking about whatever the fuck that route is, and they're like, that route stays probably. like, goddamn. Hey, first time Britbonger here. Love your stuff, Tyler. I'm going to stay out of the American shit because I don't know it. Based. I will refrain from talking about Keir Starmer doing stuff. I actually did want to do one thing on Britain, but you guys can help me through it. There's an interesting thing with AI, but still, your elections and shit. No, I'm good. But yeah, this isn't great. Let me see. Anyone suggest that we can't have military helicopters flying in Washington, D.C. doesn't understand national security and the threats we confront and what is necessary to defend our citizens, Bowman said. Yep. In attack, the unit that is tasked with ensuring continuity of government by getting officials to secure locations, which means being able to fly officials from the White House, Pentagon, and other locations. After the September 11th, 2001 attacks, Bowman took part in managing some of those flights. Okay, so yeah, they're for like, you know, like we have the designated survivor type shit. If they start flying the airplanes out of the sky into the fucking federal buildings again, those guys go and like snatch them guys up and fly them out. That's one of the missions. The unit also ferries high-ranking military and government officials around the region, missions that are flown every day by multiple aircraft, said Jonathan Koziel, Chief of Staff for Army Aviation. The Pentagon's right there, and we have to go in and pick up Pentagon leaders. Wednesday's crash and the reports in the federal database highlighted the unique challenges of flying into the Reagan National Airport. I mean, are they going to say everything? It was described by some as a postage stamp of an airport with water on 3 sides and constant congestion along the busy Potomac River corridor. Though it's been upgraded with modern terminals and other amenities, the bustling airport is an aviation relic dating to the era before World War II, when all planes had propellers and airstrips were built on small footprints close to downtowns. The AP's review of the NASA database found that commercial airline pilots repeatedly lodged concerns about the congested airspace and the risks of helicopters and planes flying in close proximity. Reagan Airport is probably the most dangerous airport in the U.S., one pilot wrote in 2015. The controllers are pushing in an attempt to handle the traffic they have. Low-level military helicopter traffic in the area complicates matters. In another 2015 incident, a jetliner pilot reported a near mid-air collision with a helicopter after being instructed to land on runway 33 instead of runway 1, the airport's main north-south landing strip. It was the same type of scenario that preceded Wednesday's crash. The co-pilot took the controls and maneuvered the plane to prevent it from becoming a mid-air collision, the pilot wrote, adding that a wider approach to the airport would have almost definitely ended in the collision of 2 aircraft. I was saying, like, somebody dodging with an aircraft, that's like something you'd see in a movie, right? In real life, that's supposed to happen like once, maybe twice in somebody's career. It's not supposed to be even a thing that happens. You're not supposed to be dodging in the plane. You're not supposed to be like, you don't fly around shit. It's not fucking Ace Combat Evolved. You just go up. It's called a flight path. You're supposed to be on the path the whole time. You just go up and down like it's a railway, but you just have to have the pilot stay on it. That's why you can't even have autopilot. If you have to dodge shit in a plane, a big one, and you're just flying it as a commuter or commercial jet, like, dude, the worst possible things are happening. It's fucking nuts. After frantically working to avoid a similar collision in 2013, an air traffic controller wrote in the database that our helicopter operation is an abomination of the picture of safe aircraft movement. Such incidents and repeated warnings about helicopter traffic near the airport had led pilots and others in the aviation industry to go complacent about the risks, another pilot wrote in the database. What would normally be alarming at any other airport in the country, the pilot reported, has become commonplace. AP reporter Michael Biesiker contributing from Washington. So that's the nature of what's going on right now. And this is only going to get crazier. You need regulation. I'll say that a million times and stand by it every time, because aviation is important to our country going. So it's not going away. We're not going to have less of it. We're only going to ever have more of it because people want more airplanes. They want more airplanes flying. They want more air routes. We have more people. We have more trade, all of that. We have not hit a stop of growth. Capitalism demands more airlines, but we don't subsidize airports for some reason. Against all odds and sense of sanity, most of our airlines, if not almost all of our airlines, they're privately run at usually some sort of deficit to whoever's running them, especially commuter airlines. So the planes are as cheap as possible. They're badly maintained. Flight staff is overworked. ATC staff, as we've seen, are overworked. The FAA is constantly like, you got to fix that. And they're like, well, we're not going to. We're going to fly anyway. And they're like, well, we'll fine you. And they say, we'll pay the fine. And then they just go away. And then they complain about the fines in Congress and say, like, yeah, these people are overstepping. It's fucking crazy. And it's going to get more bonkers. The amount of safety regulations in that 2025 report that we saw that are going to be like removed from railroads, which are actually, and I know this sounds insane because planes are planes. Railroads are way scarier to me than planes are because you have just no real idea how big a train is and what a derailment really entails, especially if you haven't lived out like in the country where we're kind of ahead of the curve in degrading fucking infrastructure, and you see massive derailments because the trains go too fast, they're not regulated, they're not double checked, they put stuff in containers that are not meant to be in those containers, or that they don't have the fire suppression. And just for an example, the crude hauled off of the Bakken oil range where I was in North Dakota, northwest North Dakota, Montana region is called Bakken Shale Oil Formation, Bakken. Talking the Bakken magazine. They had Bakken bombs, right? Is what they called all of the crude tankers coming out of there, because it had a higher sulfur concentration in the crude than is generally acceptable or like planned for in the hulls of the crude oil tankers. Those are those big black tubular things. They look like a pill-shaped black container with a little lump on it. That's usually crude oil in those, right? And there's specialized ones that can handle that level of sulfur, but the Bakken shale oil formation oil fields were being serviced by Baltimore Northern, Santa Fe Railroad, BNSF, and BNSF had non-standard containers running on some of their trains, and if they crashed, they would fucking explode because the sulfur and the hulls and the impact were not sufficient to negate the force and like the disintegration of the fucking containers. They would be too thin walled and all this, and they would, if they derailed, boom, and it would explode. Bakken bombs. And understand, like, a fucking train car full of fuel of crude oil is a fire. Just tell a firefighter about that and ask them, what would it take to put out like a single train car full of crude oil? And they'll like go blank in their eyes for a second if they've ever had to do it. Because the firefighters that we talked to when it went on, they're like, everything that is burning over there, if you take a single fucking breath of it, is probably going to cut 10 years off your life. And that's not like a joke. And we don't have the respirators to deal with it or the oxygen tanks, like sufficient supply to get in there. There's nothing to fly out here because we're not set up for it. We have to let the most toxic shit we've ever seen fucking burn till it gets cool enough to dump dirt on it and just hope the ground eats the poison and doesn't put it in the water. Like, wow, that's how you're solving this? They're like, what do you want to do? You have another idea? Like, nope. Chemical fires are coming, baby. If you guys don't know about chemical fires, it's a different type of fire. You're like, oh, there's chemicals in fires. Oh yeah, there is. I gotta get my fucking pictures off my hard drive so I can show you guys the fucking the big Williston fire of 2014 when the chemical plant or the chemical storage facility caught fire. Column, flat facility, no stories, not a single. It was mostly open pavement with storage containers for chemicals, improperly maintained, not quite set up the correct way. Who cares about that, right? It caused a column of fire when it caught on fire. A single lot. A column of fire that went up into the sky a fucking quarter mile, I swear to God. You could see it burning like the finger of fucking God. It looked like the sword that like God shoved into the fucking earth to keep fucking after fucking Adam and Eve got kicked out of the fucking Garden of Eden. It was like that. Whoa! Completely. All the way side to side, all the way up. If you look up the pictures of it, it might be the ones probably that I took, if not the ones that Jerry took. Fucking nuts. It burned for a few days. It burned for a while. Hey, what are you guys gonna do? And I think one of the firefighters like, I don't fucking know. And he said, don't put that in the paper. I don't fucking know. Yeah, like a local Williston PD guy, just like, dude, we got a fucking town of 13,000. This is one of the biggest like disasters I've ever seen in my fucking life. And at the time, it was like a Tuesday. North Dakota's super unregulated, baby. They don't give a fuck. They won't fucking report shit to the feds. They fucking hate the EPA. They don't give a fuck. Come into a town near you. It's going to be great. You're going to get to see towers of fire like you've never seen before. You'll see fucking bodies in the street. Planes are falling from the skies. We're going to get a few years of apocalypse until we learn how to be better people or we all die. I think that's what's coming. It's the great learning. The great understanding is on its way to us. It's going to be, I'm just going to say this. Unless and I would prefer to be wrong, and Donald Trump is a fucking economic genius and the tariffs work and the deregulation actually like ushers in a golden age, that would be fucking cool. But if it doesn't, Luigi Mangione isn't going to be a fucking single guy. It's going to be a catchphrase that people of stripes and dispositions you've never even considered had a violent thought in their mind are like, God damn, he was right. Fuck. This is not even fucking around like levels of it's gonna be fucking crazy. I'm not doomering on it. The best that you can do is just get ready for something fucking crazy to pop off near you and just be aware I'll try to keep up on what sort of deregulation issues are gonna be occurring as we get deeper into this, because I have a level of understanding of it. So I'll try to keep my fucking head on it. Keep your local and state agencies strong, all right? So that they can fucking say, like, well, we're going to require this. So if you pass through us, you have to have it. So it's going to increase the requirements on both you guys. You know, those are like the closest things that you can do. Or just at least be aware of, like, wait, do I live near a chemical plant? And you'll be like, no, I don't. And then you find out it's actually like 2 houses down from you, because they deregulated what it even counts as a plant. And it's actually just 3333 Whitaker Street is actually just now a MCHM storage facility. Well, it might not burn, but everything's going to smell like licorice for a little bit. Good luck, folks. Coming soon to a city near you.
Hope you enjoyed your time on the West